Are the Jabra Elite 3 the new king of true wireless earbuds? On first impressions, they look almost exactly like their 3 times the price cousins, the Jabra 85T. So what have Jabra cut to make this possible at an affordable price? And crucially, what were the 2 big problems I had with these buds? We'll be finding out shortly. I will throw affiliate links in the description below so you can check their price in real time, as you never know when these things might go on sale or their price might drop. I'm Mark and I'm back to let you know what's worth buying before you buy it, so let's get into the review. In terms of build quality and design, the Elite 3 gives all the right first impressions. The case looks almost identical to Jabra's far more expensive models, still retaining that pocket-friendly form factor, and the same goes for the buds too. In fact, both the case and buds are smaller and lighter than the 85T, with far improved button controls that for once aren't uncomfortable to press when you're wearing them in your ears. Rather uncommonly, the Elite 3 are IP55 dust protected and sweat proof, when even the 85T only have an IPX4 rating with no dust protection whatsoever, so that's a nice little level up here. So scores for round 1, it's going to be a 9 out of 10 for build and design, because this is around that most budget brands really struggle with. The buds are usually either huge and lacking in portability, they're a bad rip-off of AirPods in terms of design, or they just look and feel like cheap buds, and for once I can't say any of those about the Elite 3. In terms of battery life and longevity, we're getting 7 hours playback in a single listening session and 28 hours overall when you factor in that case. Now, during my real-world testing, these figures proved to be pretty accurate, but even still, these figures aren't anything mind-blowing at this price, meaning they're getting a 7 out of 10 for me. Things are also a little underwhelming here when you factor in that other buds around this price will have wireless charging when the Elite 3 don't. In terms of fit and comfort, I have to say, these are the best fitting Jabra buds I've ever tried. First of all, they're insanely light, meaning the ear tips don't have to do much heavy lifting to keep them secure. Then they're just so much less bulky than the 85Ts, even though the latter still fit very securely and comfortably, which means ear fatigue doesn't set in with the Elite 3s until at least an hour and a half for me, which is pretty good. And yes, I can recommend the Elite 3 for working out, especially since the buds are sweat-proof, as I mentioned. I'm going to throw a 9 out of 10 for fit and comfort here, because if all buds fit like this, I'd be very happy, but some optional wingtips may have been a little bit helpful for anyone out there with larger ears, but overall, it's a thumbs up from me. So here's a microphone test of the Jabra Elite 3. It's pretty windy today, and there is a lot of cars going past, a lot more than usual, so hopefully this will be a good test of how the microphone performs in a real-world environment. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What I'm going to do now is switch over to the Jabra 85T. Now bear in mind they do cost a lot more, so will the microphone be 3 times as good since they are 3 times more expensive? Well, let's find out. And here is the microphone quality of the Jabra 85T. Now I reviewed these quite a long time ago, so I don't really remember how the microphone quality was. I'm assuming it's going to be noticeably better than the Elite 3, which we just heard, because I listened to it back and it didn't sound great, but I will reserve my final opinion until we get back to the studio and I can let you know which I think is truly the best in terms of microphone quality. So let's do that. So it turns out that paying 3 times as much certainly doesn't equate to 3 times better call quality, making this a surprisingly close round to call. So on the one hand, the 85T, they make my voice sound slightly more muffled, but on the other hand, the Elite 3 then bleed in more background noise, so it's kind of a bit of a trade-off. But considering the price of the Elite 3 and how much lower that price is, they undeniably managed to put in an insane mic performance at this price point. So that's going to be a 7 out of 10 for mic quality, with the 85T realistically being only around an 8 out of 10. Certainly not bad at all from Jabra's first foray into budget buds. Okay, it's time to rate functionality and usability. The Elite 3 get off to a great start with the introduction of Bluetooth 5.2 for a stronger, more stable connection, and the support of aptX for the streaming of higher quality audio files if your device supports it, i.e. if you have an Android device, for example. Two things which aren't always a given in budget buds. We've also got mono mode here, so yes, you can use either earbud independently, but unlike Jabra's high-end earbuds, no multi-point pairing here. Audio-visual lag for everything from YouTube to Netflix is obviously next to non-existent, as these apps always correct for that audio-visual lag anyway, but you are going to notice a considerable delay when smartphone gaming. Now, there's one thing I need to clear up here. Despite some very confusing, inaccurate information in both listings on Amazon UK and US, which has now been changed, these buds do not have active noise cancellation, and the listings literally stated that they did. So with that aside, I have to say that the main point here is that it's very hard to find budget buds that don't have ANC around this price, and the Elite 3 don't have it, so that's pretty disappointing. For what it's worth, the hear-through mode is decent, though nothing special for under $100. The Jabra companion app allows for some very mild customization. We've got equalizer presets, and that's it. There's certainly no custom equalizer settings, and you can't even customize the button controls, though on the bright side, the buds do have volume controls on them, so you can adjust those with a long press. You don't need to set that manually in the app to have that functionality. But it may not offer a lot right now, but Jabra have been known to be very generous with the firmware updates, so fingers crossed we might be seeing some of that in the future. Overall, it's going to be a 6 out of 10 for functionality and usability, purely based on what you're getting at this price. Because at this price, I'd expect to see ANC, custom equalizer settings, customizable touch controls, potentially even a low latency mode too. So there's definitely a lot more that Jabra could introduce in the future to spice things up a bit here and get some more points from me. So I said at the start of the video I had two big problems with these. So here's the first one before we get to sound quality. After 1.5 weeks of owning these buds, the left earbud is completely dead. It doesn't charge, it doesn't turn on when you remove them from the case. It is a tiny earbud corpse. RIP. I never dropped them. I hadn't even really been out of the house that much with them. The case didn't get a battering or anything like that. So the first thing I did obviously was I unpaired them from my device to try and repair them, but guess what? You need to long press both buttons on both buds to put them back into pairing mode, and as one bud is dead, I can't pair them to anything, so I can't even use the right working bud with anything either. So I got in contact with Jabra's customer support, as I am a paying customer, and they basically confirmed that they were dead. Here's the last email that they sent me. So I'll be returning the dud pair shortly, as I've already bought a replacement pair which are currently in full working order. But for how long will they be in full working order? Who knows? I did try and charge the dead bud in the new case, still doesn't power on, so yep, it's definitely dead. I chose not to mention this problem during one of my review rounds where I rate the buds, because I won't be deducting any points for this in my final rating, because hopefully I'm just unlucky. This won't affect you. It's hopefully just an isolated case, but still I felt it was definitely something you guys should know before buying these, as in my opinion that definitely raises questions about the lifespan of these buds just based on my experience here. Okay, now that's out of the way, let's talk sound quality, where I encountered my second big problem. Make sure you're following me on my personal Instagram and Twitter before we get started. I'm planning on making a bit of a return over there this week, so please come over and say hi to let me know you still exist. Okay, here's the second big problem I had with the Elite 3. The Jabra Elite 3 have some of the worst audio hiss of all time. Yes, of all time. And yes, that's both in the pair that died and in my new pair as well. So at least I could confirm that that wasn't just a defect in my original unit. Seems to be in all of them. And in case you don't know what audio hiss is, it's basically also known as audio static, and it's kind of comparable to tape hiss you'd get on an old cassette tape. It's literally just a constant like psst. I can't put it better than that. Long story short, it's pretty annoying when I'm trying to assess sound quality. And it's not just a little audio static either, as I've experienced in the past. It can actually be as loud as playback is at 10% volume, meaning it is definitely audible at lower volumes during quieter songs and Yes, it's in both earbuds, not just one or the other. The hiss kicks in as soon as you power on the buds and stops about 30 seconds after playback ends, and as soon as you hit play, it kicks right in again and just begins hissing like an angry snake. But of course, I can crank up the volume of my tracks to drown out the hiss, because then I can finally begin to appreciate the wonderful sound signature that Jabra has actually given us here. There's a subtle emphasis on bass without being too overpowering, whilst mids and highs retain exceptional detail for the price. Needless to say, they don't come close to matching or besting the 85T, which have far better soundstage and overall clarity with zero hiss whatsoever, but the Elite 3 do somehow come scarily close. So yes, this is the Jabra sound signature I was hoping for, but certainly not in the way I wanted. So far, I haven't really found any reviews that mention the hiss, but I did find a thread on Jabra's Reddit, which has been posted by other customers. Overall, because of all that, it's going to be a 5 out of 10 for sound quality, as the Elite 3 suffer with one of the worst cases of audio static I've heard in a very long time, if not ever. If the hiss was entirely absent, it'd probably be an 8 out of 10 at least. I will admit that once your ears kind of get used to it, they just sort of tune out the hiss, so it is possible to kind of live with it, but that doesn't change the fact that you can get the same or better sound quality elsewhere at this price with no hiss required. Overall, the Jabra Elite 3 scored a 43 out of 60, which is a solid 7.1 out of 10 overall. The pros are an insanely compact design, awesome fit, great mic quality, IP55 rating, aptX, and a Jabra sound signature at an affordable price. The cons are they're lacking a little in terms of functionality for this price in late 2021, with no ANC and no custom equalizer settings, some of the worst audio hiss I've encountered to date, and they most definitely raise some pretty awkward questions about how long these buds will truly last during regular use. There is so much good here, but to me the audio hiss is an instant turn off because there's always an option available without it, no matter what price point you're at. In my opinion, a very respectable audio company like Jabra that I personally really love shouldn't be shipping products out like this, especially when even the cheapest of the cheap buds rarely suffer with this issue. You can just check out my other reviews as a great example. So I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear that after my experience, which you've heard, I cannot recommend these buds to you guys at all. I mean, I've got a pair that I'm about to send back, and that says it all really. And there was so much I love about them, which just really annoys me about the situation. But what I will say is definitely check out the Soundcore Life P3, which are at a very similar price point, offer a very similar sound signature, and they don't hiss like an angry snake. Now you've watched this video, you definitely need to check out my comparison review of the 85T versus the 75T and why I ultimately thought the 75T offered better value for money, or you can check out the top 5 best budget true wireless earbuds you can find right now. So pick one of those and I'll see you in the next video.